Racing to the 2020 Kentucky Derby. This time, let's take a look at the recap of the Rebel Stakes from Oaklawn Park. It was a sloppy racetrack, but from the one post position, it was Nadal taking some heat early and ended up going officially wire to wire in the $1 million Rebel Stakes and picked up 50 points in the process for the 2020 Kentucky Derby. Long shot Accession ran second at 82 to 1. And Basin, basically the second favorite, he ended up finishing kind of a non-threatening third. Let's take a look at the race as it unfolded. Nadal was sent pretty hard from the gate, and I think the key factor here for Nadal was they were a little bit worried with No Parole, possibly on the stretch out, maybe trying to go for the lead. And No Parole did break well. He did come out from the center of the track and did apply some pressure, but the real surprise was from the outside with American Theorem from that 8th post position, shot out and engaged for the lead for the first half mile to 3/4 of a mile with Nadal. Really, he was the horse that applied the pressure with No Parole, settling in third early and then kind of just fading and finishing a non-threatening effort in the race. With Nadal, after he kind of opened up a length going into the turn on American Theorem, who was coming off the layoff, then really the challenge came from late Accession, who kind of drifted out late in the center of the track. It may have been a little bit closer, but Nadal kind of did seem to have a measure. The key factors with Nadal, we've seen him 3 straight races now be really a little bit speed focused early on in his races. Now, he hasn't been able to get into a race yet where he's been able to slow down the fractions. So if he's ever the lone speed in a race, it will be interesting to see how far a horse like Nadal can run. But I think his tendency, there's some horses that can be rated. I think Charlatan has shown after a couple of races he could maybe be rated a little bit. But I'm not so sure that Nadal is the type of horse that wants to be rated. I think he likes to be on the engine and on the lead, and I think that's where he's going to do his best running. But I do think if he's capable of slowing down the fractions, you could see a horse like this really finish a race. I could see him just being a dominator at a mile or even a mile and an eighth long term as really his ideal distance. He does have the 50 points, and the restructured Kentucky Derby is now in September. But reality-wise, I'm not sure. Maybe he does run in the Met Mile. Maybe he runs in a couple of these mile and eighth Derby races and really doesn't even point for the Kentucky Derby in September. Accession ran well, but don't be fooled here. He got a perfect trip set up. A couple of horses fired too early. No Parole didn't fire at all. 3 Technique had a wide trip. And really Accession just laid at the rail behind the pack. After they all made their moves, he got a perfect inside-out trip and then went out to the center of the track late. And again, he drifted out. Otherwise, he may have made it a little bit closer. Third place Basin, he showed his distance limitations. It was an okay effort, even effort off the bench, but he's not really a grade 1 horse at a mile and an eighth type distance. I could see him being more a mile and a 16th, maybe picking up some of the minor derbies if those derbies are even run this summer. With a lot of these casinos closing, they're going to be cutting purses right and left, and some of these derbies may go by the wayside. 3 Technique ran wide, otherwise no real excuse. I think we're seeing he's really just a late running sprinter, maybe 7 furlongs to a mile. I just don't see him being a distance horse, although he has had back-to-back kind of pace compromised trips, and I don't think the sloppy track helped him at all in this spot either, being by Mr. Speaker. But who knows, maybe turf is his best distance. Some of the other horses, really, Silver Prospector, I think all along he's going to be a turf horse. I just don't think he wants a mile and an eighth on the dirt. So the winner, Nadal, he's got the points to get to the Kentucky Derby. We'll see how that shakes out. And if he runs in some of the mile and an eighth efforts, these horses were being geared to really peak in May and June. And I'm just not sure how that's going to shake out with the Derby now being in September. That's a look at the Oaklawn the Rebel Stakes, the Rebel Yell. Who did you like in the Rebel? Who do you think is going to benefit from the 10 furlongs of the Kentucky Derby? Smash that like button. Remember, we're getting close to 400 subscribers. You could be the 400 subscribers. Hit that subscribe button. And also, watch the other videos as we lead you on to the 2020 Kentucky Derby.